Testing 3, 2, 1.
The Boys in Blue. I have 4 short stories of men, police officers, who took an oath to protect us. Loveland, Ohio, March 21st. Officer Anthony Pecord, 48, was intentionally having men become unconscious around him by supplying them with an unknown intoxicant. He would then rape these men while they were knocked out. He would resign from his job before being charged with multiple counts of rape, to which the charges were reduced to gross sexual imposition. He was only sentenced to 4 years in prison, which he will be required to register as a sex offender for only 15 years. New charges can be added at any time by new victims, and they will give him additional time. The police are waiting for others that may come forward who have been a victim of Pecord. They actually think that there are more victims out there. They just have to contact the Loveland Police Department in Ohio. Pecord had also been HIV positive since 2016, and none of his victims was aware of his status. New Orleans, Rodney Vicknair, 54. It's been said that this officer has had behavioral complaints against him in the past. To name a few, he ran a woman's license plate to obtain her name for his own agenda. He was threatening a homeless woman whose boyfriend had died of a heroin drug overdose, and he was telling her he would run her name through, and she probably had past warrants. Basically, he would just scare and harass this woman. He had 6 complaints his first few years of even working, which was obviously swept under a rug. He would also handle different type of situations and not put it in on his police log at the end of the day, which probably because he wasn't supposed to be there or involved in that situation. So he had a lot of things that he was doing that they pretty much was turning a blind eye to. Vicknair was now sent to aid in helping a 14-year-old girl who was raped. He would take her to get a rape kit. The examination was completed. Her mother was also accompanied by her that day. In the waiting room, this police officer would actually show this girl pictures of a girl in bikinis and lingerie. He told them that this was his 16-year-old daughter and that she was a model. Now, he had been on the force for 13 years, so he had some type of air of confidence in him because he'd been getting away with stuff for so long. He started to groom this teenager. He would call her every day. From June to September, he was like pretending to be some type of mentor towards her. He would come to her house. He would even wake her up in her room with the flashlight shining on him. He would pull up and she would come out and sit in his car, and he would always grope her and say anything he could say sexual towards her. When he did come into the house and the girl's mother would leave the room, he would try to grope her and say things. He was just literally a pig. He started to talk to the girl, and his conversations involved how he could kill her loved ones, he would say jokingly. He bragged about the acts of violence that he got away with, and he constantly would talk about sexual things with this girl. He would discuss things that he would like to do to her. She would decline and turn down sex acts with him. He asked for nude photos. He actually used these photos as his lock screen photo on his phone. He exposed his penis to her twice over FaceTime, so he was FaceTiming her as well. He, at one point, started to insert his fingers in her vagina when he had her sit in his patrol car. The mother started to, at this point, think he's coming around a little too much. His behavior wasn't good. She actually filed a complaint against him. It was a little too late. He had ended up raping her daughter. During this complaint, it was investigated. It was all true, and he was arrested. The NOPD placed him on emergency suspension. So, he has no job with them right now. So there will probably be an upcoming trial with his name on it. I mean, raping a rape victim. How low can you go? The mother is suing in a civil rights lawsuit, as well as she should. On behalf of her and her daughter, she says her daughter still is emotionally suffering. The mother's name, of course, hasn't been released for obvious reasons, along with her daughter, who is underage and a rape victim. Milwaukee, Wisconsin, August 14th, 2016. Dominique HeagganBrown. He was 29 at the time. He's being referred to as the disgraced former Milwaukee police officer. Brown was acquitted of first-degree reckless homicide in which he shot to death Seville Smith in the Sherman Park neighborhood in August 2016. Prosecutors would say Smith was trying to surrender while Brown shot and killed him. He actually faced up to 60 years, but he was acquitted in June 2017, which led to a 2-day protest and riots that were filmed all over the TV. He actually watched one of these news episodes of him in a bar with a man who would ultimately become one of his victims. The officer was convicted of 6 felonies in which he entered a no contest plea to 1 count of false imprisonment, guilty pleas to 3 counts of solicitation of prostitutes, and 2 counts of capture of intimidation representation. This case resulted in him being terminated from the MPD after the investigation found him to be in violation of the MPD Code of Conduct. Now, in other words, there were 4 complaints that happened in 2016. The guy that I was telling you about, on occasion, he told this young man that he would help him with his rap career. So they went to this bar to have some drinks. And again, they were watching the riots. They also say that this cop is described as being somewhat very cocky. I thought I'd add that in because he's watching himself on TV as he got acquitted, so he's probably already feeling some type of way. And then on top of that, he has his eyes on what he's about to do to this young man that's having these drinks with him at the bar. The young man says he didn't remember what happened after leaving the bar, but he felt like he was drugged. He remembered to waking up and Brown was trying to perform unwanted sex acts on him. Another occasion, Brown's phone was confiscated by the police who were investigating him. They found telling Texas that Brown was offering to pay and paying various men for sex. On February 5th, 2020 of last year, he was released. He did do 3 years, and he does have to register as a sex offender. New Orleans, Marcellus White, 46 years old, another NOPD former cop, in 2017 pled guilty to sexual abuse. He had abused at least 10 boys under the age of 13. He took advantage of them not only by being a police officer, but he was a karate instructor to the children, so they kind of looked at him and looked up to him. In a case in 2000, he locked the doors and forced an 11-year-old boy to show him his penis. Then he would molest the boy. Another boy he would repeatedly rape countless times. The boy was afraid no one would believe him, so he kept it to himself. They actually are saying, but he pled. He did pled to a whole nother situation, but they're saying that there were at least 14 boys under 18 that this man had raped or had some type of sexual contact with, and they were going to give him 99 years in prison, but he did plea for the younger ones. So he did receive 25 years in prison. He won't get out until he's well in his 70s. So that was 4 cases of the boys in blue. That's supposed to watch out for our well-being.